Hey everybody, Breakthrough Health and Life Coach Glenn Hattem here. I'm here with my good friend Johanna Walker here in Boulder, Colorado. Everybody say hi, Johanna.
Hi.
All right, hi to TV Land. So we're here today to have a conversation about a fascinating piece. I find this work actually that Johanna's up to in the world probably the most important work that we'll all do, which is getting our voice out there, finding our trusting on our competencies, our confidence to then share our story with the world. And I know from when my father died, I sat there in the front row at the funeral and my sister spoke. And then when it came time for me to speak, I couldn't get out of my seat to speak for my dad. And there's still an opportunity of redemption for all of us. There's still an opportunity now. And Joanna's got an incredible program to help with this that she can share about. But I think maybe sharing a little bit. I always like to have everybody kind of introduce yourself, tell a little bit about what you're up to today, and then we'll jump back in time to kind of how did you get on a path like this, and what were some of the lessons you picked up along the way. And then from there, you hang into the end of this conversation. We'll get you all the information to get a hold of Joanna and programs that she's promoting right now. So maybe jump in, Joanna, and share everybody what you're up to.
I currently work with entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, experts to help them get clear about the idea they want to be known for and get it out there to connect with their people with confidence and clarity and fun. You know, a lot of people are terrified of public speaking, so I help make it fun. Because when you're having fun, your audience you're going to be more relatable and more able to connect with your audience, and that's what it's all about. And I host a story slam in Boulder.
Story slam, I've been there.
Which I started about 10. I think it's been 10 years now, and we did like 7 or 8 slams online over COVID during the last 2 years, and we've done a couple now in person. So I've been swimming in stories. That's where people at the slam, people come to the stage. There's a theme for the night. People come to the stage to tell a story based on the theme. And then the audience votes on the best story. So it's competitive storytelling.
It's like I went to the packed house at the Dairy Center for the Arts. It was incredible. It was like going to see Dave Chappelle. It's a fun night. I think when I was there, even the musicians were getting picked on or something. But it was a great night, and just a freedom you see people experience on stage, telling a story that maybe at one time or another wasn't, when they were going through it. Maybe it didn't go down like that on your whole system, your whole nervous system, but now there's a sense of empowerment and freedom and fun, and like, wow, what a story you went through, uniquely, these unique stories, and they get us to look at our lives and I don't know, it's helped me kind of go like, oh man, what are my vignettes? What are my stories that I could share with the world that might inspire others to their greatness? And so that's what I love about your work. And then the work you do behind the scenes with programs of actually helping people hone those skill sets and craft their stories.
Yeah. I like to say stories are about people with problems. No problem. If you don't have a problem, no story. And you either have a good time or a good story. And then using a story is the best way to get your idea across. It's the shortest distance between two people. It's how you get to build that relationship. And once you have that relationship, then anything is possible. Anything is possible when you have that connection.
We remember those stories because of that connection, the emotions with, you tell the facts of something, but when it's juiced with someone's experience, that's where we develop these. We remember things too, but we connect. So, and I know in business, it's all about your story of what your business has been, where you're at now, where you're going, and can someone who's a potential prospect see themselves in that storyline, with their story.
Because ultimately, it is about telling your story and being human and being vulnerable and sharing your humanity, sharing the messiness, sharing the vulnerability. And it's not about you. It's never about you. It's about your audience, and it's about where's the crack in the story where your audience can put their shoes, where they can step into your story and see, even if your story is completely different from theirs, when you connect with the universal humanity in your story, then that's what opens the door for your person in the audience to see themselves and to see you as a person who's going to help them on their journey, help them get to the next place on their journey.
Let's talk a little bit about your journey. Let's go way back in time. Let's jump in the time machine and look way back to when you were just a youngster with curiosity in the world, who's also being, pummeled and having projections and conditionings thrusted upon your reality, and developing this identity as a youngster. Like, what were you like as a youngster?
Oh my God. I was a quiet girl. I was the quiet, well-behaved girl. Quiet, well-behaved, in line, in the box. Just like, my job was to get the right answer. And if I wasn't 100% sure I had the right answer, I did not speak. I would sometimes go for days without speaking. I had this second grade teacher. I lived in Chicago, and I remember going to school every day, and there were vocabulary words on the board hanging behind a piece of blue crepe paper. And every day she would remove the blue crepe paper, and there were 10 vocabulary words, and I had to write 10 sentences. And I wasn't a good reader. I had learning disability. It was like, I didn't really understand the words. It was hard and boring, and I wasn't learning anything. So I told my parents I hated school, and they went to talk to the teacher, and they said, Johanna's an artist. She loves to draw. She loves to paint. She loves to write. Is it possible to bring more creativity into the curriculum? So the next day, Mrs. Noble, this was in the 70s in Chicago, Mrs. Noble comes into the classroom, and she's wearing a mini skirt and pumped heels, and she marches up and down the aisle of this row, the desks in rows, and she says, there's somebody in this classroom who believes she knows more about educating second graders than I do. And
it's on.
I know, it's on. And she stood in front of my desk, and she glared down at me, and she said, Johanna, would you like to teach the class today? And because I was a good girl, I made my way to the front of the room. I crossed the moat of dragons and fire-breathing dragons and poisonous snakes grabbing at my ankles. And I went to the front of the room, and I stood there in utter terror and silence. And I just stood there, and I could not say a word. I was terrified. And my cheek, my chin started crunkling up, and I was like, wanted nothing more than to be invisible, and did everything I could to keep myself from crying, because now the kids are snickering because it's really awkward and uncomfortable. And then finally she said, well, what are we going to do today? And I said, I don't know. And then she said, is it okay if I teach the class today? And I said, yes. I didn't even say yes. I just took my seat, And that was the day I decided it's not a good idea to speak up, not a good idea to ask for what I need, not a good idea to share an idea. And I stayed quiet and good for years.
So coward. I felt your soul just like collapse.
Yeah.
Put one of those desks, that come over and locks you in.
Seriously, it was devastating. I mean, I can't believe a teacher would actually, it could have been a cool thing if she said, Johanna, do you want to lead the class? And let me help you. Let's think about it together. What would be really interesting and exciting for you? But it was like this threat. It was like this power struggle, this power, play. It's awful.
Let me just hit pause before we bridge this to the next story.
Okay.
So beautiful storytelling, right, folks? So wow, don't we all remember something in childhood more than the teacher does? Like, we remember, like, this was the experience, and it will change me it's gonna direct my life now until the end. Like, we remember these vivid details, the story pretty much, like, we're gonna live any new moment through that limiting story.
Right. And I always say, like, I was the quiet girl, and that's not everybody's story, but I'm willing to bet for most people, if you weren't the quiet one, you got in trouble for talking too much. Like, we all got hammered. I suspect, I think it's true that we all get hammered around our voices in some way, whether you talk too much or not enough, or you're this or you're that we get hammered around our voices in some way. We got some messages about our voices that have kept us from inhabiting our full genius and really, owning our genius.
I mean, I'm 6'1", I'm a big, powerful, muscly guy, and I walk around, whispering and trying to make everybody feel more comfortable. And it's like, I'm forgetting that I'm a giant. If I would just be a giant, that would make people feel more comfortable. Like, we need to be our full expression, the full spectrum.
Yeah.
However, we get conformed by these messages that we receive. And all of a sudden we're doing this thing that's like, even, it takes a while before people kind of call you out and go like, this feels icky or feels weird. It feels like incongruent. Something's off here.
Yeah. I was quiet because I was so scared of getting the wrong answer, but then I got hammered for being quiet. It was like, talk much, what's wrong? Can't cut your tongue? How come you never talk? So it's just like, dang, you can't win.
How does winning start to begin? How does that unfold?
Well, I would say for me, I did keep a hold of my voice through the arts, through writing, and because my mother was an artist and she was able to really nurture my artist voice and my artist self. And so I did hang on to some of my humanity by writing and making art. And I had stacks and stacks of journals that I wrote in, and it was through poetry in my 20s, then reading at poetry readings, that was like, oh, my writing at that point was all about my story of silence, my story of not speaking. And when I started reading my poems in public, it was like people would say, oh, that's my story too. And I was just like, wait, what? Because I lived kind of alone in a quiet bubble. And when other people, especially other women, started connecting to my story, and then it was just like, oh, I started to see I wasn't alone, and the power of telling my story through poetry was just like, it opened the door for other people to tell theirs. And I started to see how the story of my voice was part of a much bigger story about women and speaking. And that was, so then I started teaching. I started working with adolescent girls, women in jail, helping them tell their stories. And then later with business owners and CEOs and, across the board, finding that for all of us, there's some part of our voice that we've kept on the back burner.
What are some of these common things that you witness from all these different populations? Or what are some of the common threads that you're like, oh, like, where, oh, I got that too. You'd spot it. And then you're like, I got it. It's like that too. I've got that as well.
Yeah, I would say there's just like my story, something about my story doesn't matter, or my story is too intense or too dark or too weird or not interesting, or, oh God, I would never tell that story, too vulnerable, or that's unprofessional. I have to tuck in over here. Once I started working with business owners and professionals, then it was like, oh, there's professional over here, and then there's vulnerability and humanity over here, and I cannot cross over, and so a lot of people, I would say, also just might feel confident as a speaker, might feel confident presenting, but when they have to, again, show their humanity or be vulnerable, then it's like, no way. So yeah, those are some things.
Like, but I think what I hear sticking out is the two. You're either too much or too little, but right. We can't, like, there's like, where's that loving acceptance versus toleration? Where's loving acceptance of what is and what's present? There's got to be some kind of better version of this.
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
what's occurring.
And I think, when you tell a story or show a part of yourself that normally you feel like, oh, that's the part I need to keep under wraps, I think it's always true. I mean, always is a strong word, but you're not so ever say, I'll say always, but when you're willing to share that, like, that's what opens the door. Somebody needs to hear it. That opens the door to say, oh, for somebody else to say, oh, I'm welcome here. I'm okay here. I can do this too. I don't have to stay in hiding.
I remember when I was in a men's group, and we were starting a weekend retreat, and I just got, I think, dumped right at the start of my long-term relationship. At the start of the like 30 minutes when I pulled into the parking lot, it was like the phone call was like, it's over, whatever. And I'm like, oh, like, and I was just holding it in, going like, oh, I just want to cry in front of these guys. And then next thing you know, the guy, we line up, toe to toe with some exercises, and this big, powerful guy was standing in front of me, and he just starts tearing up. And then I was like, ah! Like, it's like, thank you for freeing me. I was like holding it. And it was like someone gave me permission to reveal. And that's where our deepest connections are formed, our deepest trust, our life force is like open and channeling. And maybe speak to like your experience with like when people get up to tell their story, you're like, there's something underneath there. You need to share that piece that you're hiding right there. You need to tell that. That's what the audience wants.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it happens all the time where it's like somebody comes in, because I work with a lot of business owners who want to speak to grow their business. And I'm really helping them. Like, I don't help them write a sales talk. There's a lot of, there's a lot of formula for writing a sales talk, right? But what I'm helping them with is to really clarify the idea. What's the idea you want to be known for? What's the perspective shift you want your audience to have so that they will follow you, so that they will want to lean in and learn more from you? And so I'm helping them get clear about the idea that they want to be known for, the idea that's at the heart of their business, and what's the story they can tell that is going to convey that idea. And so often, people come to me because they hear like, oh, speaking, it's going to help me grow my business, and I need to figure out how to speak about my work so that people will hire me. And that's the starting place for a lot of people. But then as we start digging in, we just get to a deeper place, a deeper story. And then what happens for the business owner is that, something about digging to those deeper layers opens the door for something else to move, for something else powerful to move. And so I see ripple effects in their businesses, in their lives. They show up with more authority, with more expertise, with more of themselves in the room.
You think that comes from an expression of more humanity?
I do. I think it's more powerful than therapy. A lot of people, I feel like speaking, it face plants, for so many people, it face plants you in your stuff, your deepest, oldest, hardest stuff, because you're taking the stage and saying, I have something to say that is of value to you. And for most people, that challenges the most stubborn, limiting beliefs. Even if you think you've got it dialed in, when you're ready to get on stage and speak, those old stories are going to go, who do you think you are? Whatever it is, they're going to and when you face those and befriend those and speak anyway, that starts to break all that stuff down.
Would you say that's formulaic for a living, that we have to turn and face our deepest fears, and we have to do the harder work? We have to turn inward, and we have to give attention to those things that we, as in our childhood, suppressed. That the only way to get that freedom we really want in our life and go to the next level, the next chapter, we have to express. We are the full scope of the rainbow. We're all the shades. but we've kind of compartmentalized and harbored, certain aspects of ourselves. And life's going to continue to bring us these experiences to agitate until we finally say, I'm willing to take a look at this, and I'm willing to bring the adult version of myself,
right,
to take care of this part of myself. And so unfortunately for all these viewers are like, I'm looking for a good person to help me get ready to crush my sales presentation. It's like, you're going to do that. But it's probably not, not necessarily,
look the way you thought it was going to look.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Yes, it's important that we face our stuff and we do the hard thing, and we go after the insidious little stories that have limits, that are, the parts of ourselves that have been in exile.
Yeah.
Yes. And when you get on stage to speak, it's not about you. And it's certainly not about getting on stage and dumping all your dirty laundry and they're like, look at all the ways I've suffered, and look at all the challenges I've faced, and look at all the things I've overcome. It's not about that at all. It's
not a victim vomit.
No, not a victim vomit, and not a like, look at me vomit either. It's always about your audience. It's always about your audience, about who's in your audience, what's the journey they're on, why are they there in the audience that day, what keeps them up at night, what are they curious about, and how can you plug into their journey, which means you got to know, when I talk about story, like, yeah, it's you telling your story, but it's also, what's the journey you want to take your audience on? Because you're taking them on a journey. They're living a story right now. So you got to know what story they're living. You got to know where they are on their journey and how you're going to plug into their journey. That's when your story transforms. That's when you make the sale. That's when you make the connection, when you can really dial in to, when you can really make it not about you and make it about your audience.
Isn't this the formula for how we should all be listening and communicating with one another? How we should show up? Meaning, I've done my work with my stuff. I'm responsible for the emotions that are being evoked in this conversation, this interaction. And through my self-awareness and my self-responsibility, I can show up for you and put myself in your shoes, because I've already figured out where I am in my shoes. And by my creating that space with you, then you can also do that with me. And so whether you're doing it in a large landscape of the stage to the audience, as you just said, it's like, it's not about me. Like, I know this story. I already know this well. So let me just how would this benefit you by sharing this?
Yeah.
Versus dumping in conversation.
Yeah. So it's to be, I always say, to be a better speaker, be a better listener. Speaking isn't really about speaking. It's about listening. Ultimately you're on stage and you're speaking, but again, it's about listening and really, like you said, just in conversation. In conversation, I'm listening to you and I'm responding, and we're in, the more of my work that I've done, the more I can show up and really listen and really be of service. And that's what you're doing on stage. It's a kind of listening. Even though you're talking, you're listening to the audience. You're listening to the connection that's happening so that you can truly be of service.
Well, can I put you on the spot, and can I ask, is there a story of someone who's gone through your work that would our audience could really feel, viscerally, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs and folks with families that are just really impassioned about life and get stuck at times and want to take things to the next level as well, and they've got a story to tell, and how might maybe sharing through story, and then we can then give them your contact information so they can get a hold of you. But maybe share one of those stories. I know I've got great stories of clients I've had success with, and I often tell stories about people. I videotape these success stories at the end, and they share those stories with people about how they had such great success with me. And I'm like, do you want me to show them the video of when we were bickering and forced you to do things you didn't want to do, and it was really ugly and messy? And it's like, no, let's just stay with the finished video, And I know that people come to you, when they sit in the room and they get to their notepad, they're putting in work. to get to this presentation, and the nervousness and angst to get up on the microphone, and all the things they're having to do that sounded great when they signed up for something to stretch them. But when the stretching came, something awoke in them. They had to do this work.
Yeah. Well, one person comes to mind. It's interesting because I get a lot of people who on the surface seem really, they're business owners and they're confident and they're out there doing the work. And in my program, we do a lot of on your feet work. So it's not, it's not like you're consuming content or I'm dumping slides on you and you're just, you're in your body and you're on your feet and you're working, which means you're working on your feet, which means you get to face the feelings in the moment. You get to really face the resistance and the self-doubt and whatever it is that comes up in the moment, you get to face it in the moment and work with it and turn it into your battery pack. I always say that stuff is actually the source of your power.
I remember that first day, even with doing some work with you during one of the courses, and like the first thing was we're up and moving out of your head, and the person like next to you is like blah, and then you got to be like blah back and say all these weird things and move your body and twist and work and like get out of your head and be here now and be playful. So much play involved. I'm like, oh, I think I haven't been this silly for a while. I think I've been too serious. I think I needed this. I think I need to learn how to be a kid again.
Yeah. And then sometimes it's just like, get up and give your TEDx talk for, you have 2 minutes now, give your talk. And so that said, it puts people up against their stuff. So one person I'm thinking of who, she lived locally, she lived in Boulder, and she had a big story to tell. And it was connected to, she wanted to write a book, and she had a big story to tell about a significant event in her life. And she reached out to me and she was like, I really want to work with you, but I'm not ready yet. I have to XYZ. And then I'd run into her around town. I think she started coming to the Story Slam. So I'd see her at the Story Slam and she'd say, oh, I read every one of your emails, but I'm just not ready to work with you. And this went on for a few years. And then it was 2 years ago when I shifted my course to online. And I was doing kind of a beta version of that, since it was the first time I was teaching it on. I had been teaching it in person for many years. When I was doing it online, I was doing a beta version, and she decided to do it. And she was like, I'm not ready. I'm still not ready, but I'm going to do it because it seems like a good opportunity.
Not feeling ready yet.
Yeah. And that is the thing. Yeah. And so she came in I can remember her in some of these exercises, what we're doing, where she's asked to get up onto her feet and speak. And she's like, I can't, I'm not ready. I can't do it. And I would kind of shepherd her to the stage to do it. And there were some incredibly powerful moments in the group because you have the group support, the group witness, and she did it. And then she wrote her talk and she delivered the talk. Like the course ends in a showcase where you get to deliver your talk, and she delivered her talk. And in the process of creating the talk, she wrote the book. So it was like she was in this story of I'm not ready. And there was this wall of readiness. And then when she decided to go anyway, to step forward anyway, the momentum of doing the work of creating the talk got her to write the book. She wrote the book. Now the book is out and she's speaking and promoting the book.
So what do you think? Go ahead.
Yeah. It's just amazing because she was, people come to me with all different levels of comfort around speaking, and she was not comfortable speaking. And she knew she had a story she had to tell. Other people come to me, it's like, I'm cool, I got this. I know I'm comfortable speaking, I just don't know how to tell my story, or I'm comfortable speaking, I just have no idea how to organize my thoughts to create a talk. So everybody's got their own edge. But I just find that whenever people walk right to that edge before they're ready, like one of the rules is go before you're ready. Because if you wait till you're ready, it's going to be eons before you go. And I see over and over again when people take that leap and do it before they feel ready, it's like, You know?
It's like an exorcism. What do you think it is? Can you pinpoint what that maybe goes on that might have been happening for her when she's like she's nudging herself along to say, I'm not ready, I'm not ready, I'm not ready. But something beneath her is like, we gotta do this. We gotta do this. We gotta get out there. We gotta just not have all the how-to figured out yet.
Yeah.
What do you
So what's the question? What do I think? What
do you think is, what do you think was, what do you believe might have been that would get her to flip that switch and get on that online?
I think it's just decision. It's just making the decision, because the feeling, we can't let her, I'm all about feelings and having our feelings and honoring our feelings, but we can't let them drive all the time. So it's about deciding, I'm going to do it anyway. Deciding, I don't feel ready, but I'm going to take the step anyway. And with each step, you get information. And with each step, you do something you didn't think you can do. And then it's like, oh, I could take the next step. So sometimes just taking that first step and raising your hand and saying, okay, I have no idea what's coming, but I'm going to do this. And you take that step, then you get information.
Yeah, it's like the universe starts supporting you. You just put it out there. Now that vacuum of everything's coming towards you that's trying to support this step. Your first step, you took the first step, took the hard first step. It's like, there's the second step for you.
And it is easier said than done. I mean, it looks nice on a Hallmark card, like, take the leap and the net will be there to catch you, and so it's easy to say, we can all say that and put quotes on our fridge about that, but like actually doing that is uncomfortable and scary. And we have to be willing to face that discomfort and just be uncomfortable and be in the not knowing, be in the mystery, be in the not knowing, be in the dark room for a little while where it's like, I can't find the window. How do I open the window? We have to be willing to be feel the gunk.
Yeah, I always love, taking the leap. Steve Harvey talks about how we all got to get to the edge of that cliff, and there's not a connector right there. You got to take a leap, and and the challenge is that when you take that leap, the chute doesn't open right away, so you get mangled a bit on the rocks.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But if you don't take the leap, you're never gonna get anywhere else other than being stuck there. And it gets harder, just like I've experienced when I've stood to do cliff jumping. It's like the longer you stand here, the harder it gets. Like that I'm not ready gets really like, I'm not ready, we're not ready. It gets harder. So
and like in my Speakers Playground program, this is a program that's more about delivery, comfort, building confidence. There's a lot, and we do a lot of improv in that program. And it's a lot of feeling. It's like, you don't have to wait until you're polished and ready, till you're polished and rehearsed and perfect. Like, you have to be willing to sound kind of stupid for a minute, or say something say something that's a little cliche maybe, or you're not totally clear about your idea, but you say it anyway. Or, you have to be willing to do that. Then you put a stake in the ground and you move forward. So it's like, even like there are big leaps we have to take, but then sometimes it's just a little mini leap of saying something that you're not quite sure how it's going to come out. You're not quite sure how it's going to land, but saying it is going to help you figure out how.
Well, I really appreciate the way you walk in the world and how it's influenced me to take courageous leaps, but taking these small steps, learning, making those micro adjustments. Even with the conquest of doing podcasts, it was like, I just want to be comfortable not being so polished and having my shit together. I just want to like go for it. Don't we all want to just go for it in life? We don't, I know we got to do checks and balances on things, but part of the initial exploding out into your pace out the gates, like there's a rush of the unknown, I don't know how I'm going to get either invalidated or validated by it, but I've got to do this. Like my soul is requiring me to to stretch, to leave good enough, the comfort zone of good enough for a great life. And I've done this before, where I've been like, I've got, things are going really good right now. Why would I dare, like, I can't put one foot here and one foot over here and try to hold this position and try to lift that foot up. Like, I gotta go for it. And sometimes, you just whoop. And so I feel like you've and you do that with the people that work with you, that are in your program. You give them the space, the container from which to practice and play with some take these ideas and concepts that they're spinning around and get a little bit of real world test before they're in front of a big audience. Because all of us at some point are going to face that big audience. And
the big audience could be 6 decision makers at a conference table, or the big audience could be one potential client. Like, your audience is anybody you're speaking to. It could be 1,000 people at a conference, but it could be just your team. You're sharing a challenging idea maybe with your team, or your audience can look a whole lot of different ways.
And imagine you could feel free in that experience, how free you could feel to just let your authentic full self hang out there. Like, here you go, fully transparent. This is it. And here's what I've gleaned from this. What, is my being here with you beneficial? Here's my value. This is just me. I'm the access. I always look at it like the work I do becomes the light on a path for someone else's unique path. Like, I'm here to be the access point for someone to, what, I'm not ready. Let's just do it. Let's just make a decision and let's just go for it, and we'll deal with whatever comes.
Yeah.
Well, how would people get a hold of you? What's the best way to get a hold of you? Any programs are that are available right now that people could jump on the bandwagon with?
People can always, I do Speakers Playground, happens every other week online. It used to be in person. I'll probably open up an in-person group again in Boulder at some point, but right now it's online. Okay. And it's a practice group. It's practice and training group for speakers and emerging speakers. And that's Speakers Playground. If you go to johannawalker.com/speakers playground, you can come for a free visit anytime and just check it out.
Just drop in.
Yeah, you can drop in as a guest, and the info is there on the website. And then you can also download, oh shoot, now I'm blanking on it's Tell Stories. Oh shoot, I can't remember the URL. I'm blanking on the URL, but it's johannawalker.com/better stories.
Okay. And they'll be able to dig a little further in.
Yeah.
And this is not, folks, this is not Toastmasters. This is like there's nothing, in fact, there's nothing I can think of that compares to what your unique offering is, because it's really a place to communicate powerfully through story, through personal story. Connect with, whether it's from the business side of things, or just finding a way to take care of the sacred within yourself and share that with the world, and just roll from that place in life. It's a when we can all be doing what we're here to be doing, when we're listening to that calling. I constantly am telling people, it's like there's the have to path, and what runs like right parallel beside is the what lights me up path. Mm-hmm. We've got at some point realize we got to switch paths. We got to get on the following, not the have to, should do society. Everyone's telling me, I'm like, what? When I check inside with myself, what's my crazy cliff to take the leap off of? And even if I'm not ready, this is my path. This is my way. These are the the things that I'm being called forth to take risks, take challenge with, do the hard work with. You're going to do it anyways on the have to. You might as well do it on something that's going to potentially give you the life you always wanted.
For sure.
Thank you so much for today, and
you're welcome. That was so fun.
With us. And just want to thank everybody out there, and we'll see you on the next episode. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.